Greetings and welcome to, a new year. My name is Jonathan Foust, and I am happy to be here with you for this meditation and this Dharma talk. A couple things before we launch, as usual. First of all, grateful to have this time. Big thanks to our mindful movement teacher and to our mindful dialogue leaders. The whole experience here, if you are so interested, starting at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, is to join mindful movement led by either Rita, Anna, or Lynn. That takes you right here to at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. The meditation is about half an hour, and then we go into the talk. The talk is usually done about 8:45, and then a few minutes after that, you can join mindful dialogue with Ray Manioki and Tara Cassidy. It's an opportunity to share about your practice, about the talk, the things you really loved, the things that you really adored about the talk. And then even if you want to, you can even talk about the things that really touched your heart in the talk. It's a wide open space. It'd be great to have you there. Big thanks to our producers, to Glenn Harrison and Leo Gimo for putting all this together, and to the Insight Meditation community for hosting. A shout out to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington, which had been the home of this live class a long time ago. A couple more things. First of all, thank you for your support. This is all offered freely, so no one is denied access. And if you feel inspired to support this, thank you so much. Truly, deeply appreciated. And I offer a newsletter, goes out every month, and it gives a little compendium of the talks with summaries. And it also has my best photography from the month. So you can sign up for that on my website. And mostly, I'm just happy to be here, happy to share these practices with you. The next big thing coming up is on January 8th, a day-long retreat online. The most important thing, begin your year with mindful intention. And that's what this talk is, really focusing on what do you want? And part of that is a review, and that's what I'll be diving into in a little bit. So intention is very, very important. It's considered the tip of the spear in terms of how you focus and how you align your energy. So maybe we'll take a little time in this meditation to kind of reflect on your intention as well. What are the things I find? I don't remember this very often. I don't remember a lot of things very often, but when I can remember why, like why am I practicing? It's powerful. It actually connects me with my heart, connects me with my emotions, connects me sometimes with my passion. And I find sometimes with my meditation practice, when it gets a little stale, just to really ask myself, so why am I doing this? So on that note, how about we dive in and we'll share some time practicing. You might like to begin by reaching your arms up overhead, stretch up to the left side, the right side, let out any sounds, anything that's crunchy in there, just acknowledge it, make a little room for it. And when you're ready, as you're ready, you can close your eyes. And you might just notice here this movement from eyes open, externally focused, and eyes closed, more internally focused. You might take a few moments to acknowledge the outer world. Notice the sounds around you. Can you expand your attention 360 degrees, and for the next few moments, just notice and feel and acknowledge the sound vibrations as they're happening. Externally, you might notice the temperature of the air, the sense of the air against your skin. Are there any particular smells or scents that you notice? And you might bring your attention to your eyes and behind your eyes and just notice maybe with the eyes closed, the display of light, the perception of light beyond your eyelids. And now you might sense the inner world. And you might just take a few moments to acknowledge the realm of what we can call the felt sense, the, the feeling tone inside. And you might explore the three qualities of the feeling tone. Is there anything on the inside that you sense now as unpleasant? Anything tight or stagnant or kind of radiating an unpleasant quality? And take a few moments to sense if you can locate that. And as you scan through your body now, can you notice any sensations that would fall into the realm of pleasant? Anything that feels easy or free flowing or has kind of a radiant quality of pleasure to it? And can you locate this? And noticing now the third category of this felt sense, which is the realm of the sensations that are neither pleasant nor unpleasant. They're kind of neutral feelings. There's an in-between quality. And can you locate wherever you might feel this on the inside? And can you sense now that quality which is observing? What is it that is noticing? Acknowledging here what we might call the observer or the witness. Non-preferential, non-judging, kind of like an unblinking eye that is awake, cognizing, and perceiving. And as you take this time to settle in your practice, you might ask yourself, why are you practicing? You might have a few words, or maybe it's just a feeling tone. Why are you here taking this time to pause and slow down and cultivate this sense of self-awareness? Why is this practice important and significant for you? And now you might bring your attention to your breathing. And if it's helpful, you might slow down and lengthen your breath. And let your breath be willful for a little while, as long as you find it to be helpful and grounding and enlivening this awareness of the space and the feeling inside. You might find it helpful to consciously lengthen the breath in, and on the out breath, consciously relax and soften. At some point, you might let your sense of the breath fall away, any control of the breath fall away, and a sense of you can simply observe the breath naturally flowing, no effort. What is the length of this next in-breath? How intimately can you feel the pause, the moment of stillness between the breath moving in and the breath moving out? And you may find your awareness, your attention kind of enhanced by softening and relaxing more on the inside. Just letting your awareness kind of flow with the following words. As I mentioned, a body part, just let your attention move there and notice how intimately you can feel it from the inside. The scalp and the crown of the head. The forehead and temples. The muscles around the eyes and the space behind the eyes. The back of the head. The base of the skull. The muscles of the face. The inside of the mouth, in particular, the tongue. The back of the neck and the tops of the shoulders. The arms. The space inside the palms and fingers and thumbs. And the space inside the throat. The space inside the lungs. The space between the breastbone and the spine. The space between the navel and the spine. The space between the left hip joint and the right hip joint. The left leg. The right leg. The soles of the feet and the heels. Sensing now from the inside what could soften. And let your awareness now very gently settle on your breathing, or on the sounds, or maybe the sense of aliveness in the palms. Relaxed and alert. When you notice the mind far away, is it possible just to smile inwardly and invite your attention back? Feeling on the inside the experience of breath or sound or the aliveness in the palms. As you feel from the inside breath or sound or feeling, you might just gently inquire, what is it that is aware? That quality of noticing, of cognizing this inner experience. And sensing in your own way what some call taking the seat of the witness. This quality of non-judging, non-preferential awareness. You may notice that this quality of noticing has a quality of effortlessness. So simply a being with what is here. Arriving and opening into awareness. And you may find as you continue to re-relax and re-arrive again and again and again that you might be able to sustain the sense of here and now. The sense of noticing not only what's happening, but also noticing the attitude in your mind. Any sense of grasping or pushing away or boredom. And you might, as it feels right for you, expand your awareness beyond your anchor. Sense the background of all that is changing. Embracing this sense of deep, deep relaxation and this quality of awake alertness. What exactly is passing through right now? Can you name it? And can you let it be? Non-judging, non-preferential awareness. Relaxed and alert. In these remaining 5 minutes, you might explore refreshing your practice, feeling first this ground of relaxation. Could you again feel your face expressionless? Relax your tongue and the belly. Sense from the inside the palms, and the soles of the feet and the heels. deeply relaxed. And you might bring your attention to your anchor, to your breathing, or to sounds, or to the felt sense in the palms. And for the next 3 breaths, notice how intimately you can experience your anchor here from the inside. Intimate, embodied, present moment awareness. Can you feel this sense of the observer and here widening, broadening your awareness? Awake to everything that is changing. And in these final moments, you might just sense, can you locate this sense of the observer? Is there actually a location on the inside? For some, it might be the head or behind the eyes, or maybe the belly or heart. And you might inquire, what is it that is aware of this location of the witness or the observer? And can you soften into this sense of awareness? And if you like, now abandoning all sense of doing or control or manipulation, take this time to relax, to allow, to rest in presence, and allow your experience to flow in its own natural way. What could soften or let go right now? What could soften or let go even more? Noticing what may have shifted over the course of this meditation, the quality of presence. And now you might very gently begin to lengthen and deepen your breath. And as you do so, notice the sounds around you, the space in your room. And in your own time, take this time. Let your head drift a little bit to the left and the right. Let your body begin to move and stretch in any way that feels good for you. Let out any sounds. Welcome. There's a classic teaching story. It kind of goes back, as classic teaching stories tend to do. Back in the days of the kind of the formal guru-disciple relationship, when you would go to see your guru, you would bring a gift, and there'd be kind of a line, and you'd come up and you'd kind of offer pranams, you'd bow to your teacher, and then sometimes you'd offer this gift. And there was one person who very devoted to his teacher, who crafted this beautiful ceramic vase and put some kind of semi-precious jewels in it, and it's really kind of a beautiful work of art, and you could see the devotion that went into it. And he, offered pranams, and he kind of offered this vase, and the guru kind of admired it, and then this man set the vase to the side and kind of went on. And then a little bit later, a wind came through, and the vase kind of blew over and fell and broke. So there are kind of two versions of the story. One is the teacher sees what happens and says, you moron, why did you put it there? That was a beautiful piece of work, and you blew it. The other version is the teacher sees how upset his disciple is, and he just puts his hands up and he says, it's okay. It was already broken. And that story ties into this talk. When you look at this life journey, we know how it's going to end. I love that phrase, this definition of life, that life is a sexually transmitted disease that is always fatal. I don't know if I'm getting older or my practice is going deeper, but I am more and more aware that everything born dies. There's something very somber about that. And of course, all depth teachings teach about impermanence. Carlos Castaneda, famously said, always keep death on your left shoulder as an advisor. When I remember that, two things kind of pop up. One is it's pretty somber, but two facts arise, and one is that I am going to die, and I'm not dead yet. So here we are. It's a new year, traditionally a time when we look at intentions. I've always been kind of an intention-oriented type person, mostly because I like to have the illusion of control. But I find not only having intentions, but it's very helpful to look at former intentions and what got in the way. And to ask again and again and again, what do you really want? What calls you? So I'd like to talk about four things. First, kind of getting in touch with the reality of here and now. And second, honoring the call, honoring what pulls you forward, what compels you in your life. And part number 3, to talk about the path of self-awareness and self-diagnosis, course correction. And part 4, acknowledging that you're not dead yet. And how do you want to live your life? There's something I've found so compelling about Buddhist philosophy. It's not an optimistic philosophy. It talks about death and suffering a lot, but it's not pessimistic either, because it talks about freedom and liberation. I like to think of it as a realistic philosophy. It's about the laws of nature, about how you can bring your life into alignment with reality. Doing so is a very powerful calling, and it's a slog, because we're constantly moving from kind of our delusions, what we're believing that isn't true, or what we're not believing that is true, to what's really true. And there's a beautiful distinction between what feels real and what's actually true. Some time back, I was with a friend, and she was complaining heartily about her family issues, her husband, and because I knew her pretty well, I could say, "Wow, I hear a lot of complaining going on. I hear a lot of narratives about what's going on in your life, but I'm just wondering, with this distinction between what feels real, well, what's actually true? What do you know to be true?" And to her credit, um, she paused really deeply, and and then she said, "Well, you know, it's true. It feels true. It feels real that my husband is inattentive, but it's also true that I nag him a lot. And the truth is, he probably just needs his own space. And it feels real that my parents aren't there for me in the way that I want them to. And it's true that they've got health issues. They're dealing with my brother and all of his issues, and yet there's also some cognitive decline going on, and they may not have the bandwidth for me." This distinction between what feels real and what's actually true is just so, so powerful. I don't do it that often, but when I do, it helps me to really sense what's the truth here. I get my story, I get my narrative. What's true? You may be familiar with what's called the SWOT analysis, SWOT. It's whenever you have like a business opportunity or you're analyzing your business. First you ask, well, what are the strengths we've got going on? And let's get real. What are our weaknesses? And what are the opportunities here? And what are the threats? And it's a very powerful, very, very hard analysis to really ask yourself, like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What's out there that's an opportunity? And what's out there that could be a threat to my well-being? And so this kind of awareness can be so helpful because we realize these are the cards that I've been dealt. These are the conditions under which I was born. This is the conditioning of my life. These are my parents. These are my siblings. This is the body I've got. These are my skill sets. These are the weaknesses. And getting real about that is really, really powerful. And I hate to admit it, but my window for playing in the NFL, I think it's closing. This is what I got to work with. So when we practice self-observation, have you ever noticed that when you watch your mind and the stories that your mind tells you, you are either the hero or you are the victim who is wrongly accused? You know, the mind is this story-making machine. It's just running this constant narrative to keep your storyline going, based completely on your conditioning. And when you have this list of what you like and what you don't like, what happens for most people is as you age, the list gets longer and longer. And if we don't pay attention, the bandwidth of our comfort level gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it becomes a very powerful inquiry to really ask yourself, is your life turning out as you had hoped? Are you happy? When you reflect on your life, what's really going on? What's really going on? So a little Zen pop quiz for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, just let a number pop in. How would you rate your physical health and your vitality? How would you rate between a scale of 1 to 10 your emotional well-being? The quality of your relationships? Your work? Your mental clarity? in your inner spiritual life. Taking stock can be helpful, especially when you really want to know what's true. It's also helpful to look at motivation. Like, what is it that's kind of driving you forward? One of the things that many people notice when they really start to practice mindfulness, aka non-judging awareness, non-preferential awareness, is they start to become more and more aware of how the mind is conditioned. And it's overcoming this conditioning that begins to free us up, to actually get these tastes of non-preferential awareness, of unconditioned awareness is really, really powerful. You may be familiar with that classic study that was done. You can find it on YouTube, where you're looking at a basketball court and your job is to count how many times the basketball was passed from one person to another. And as you're counting, this person in a gorilla suit comes in and pounding their chest, walks through the entire thing and then walks out. And many, many people don't see the gorilla because they're so focused on counting. When you start to practice mindfulness, you can begin to notice more. You begin to notice the gorilla in the background. And what I've noticed, and what many people say, is I start noticing just how much my mind is conditioned. I'm just a reaction machine. My life is informed by my wounds and disappointments. It's informed by my desires. And when I don't pay attention, my life is controlled by that conditioning. As Mark Twain said, when a cat sits on a hot stove, it'll never sit on a hot stove again. But it won't sit on a cold one either. Mindfulness reveals how distracted the mind is. All the shiny objects out there, all the stuff you didn't know you needed is being paraded in front of you. Now more than ever. Oh my gosh. It's just crazy how easily the mind gets sucked into the cyber world, isn't it? Maybe it's just me. Mindfulness can also reveal how much you may have shrunk from life. When you think about the most painful experiences you've had, or just the moments of embarrassment or shame, how much have they conditioned you? We are so limited by our perception of future pain, by the possibility of loss or shame or failure. What I've noticed in my life, and again, sharing this path with others, if we don't examine this, we're just a pinball in a pinball machine. Just reacting. And as the teachings say, what sets this whole wheel in motion is desire, wanting. Because wanting in its essence is you believing that now is not okay. That there's something out there that's gonna fulfill you. This is beautiful teaching of the 8 worldly winds. As you're walking this tightrope through life, you are buffeted by all these winds that come through. And they're buffeted by desire. On the one hand, you're driven by this desire for fame, for success, to win, for status. But you're also driven by this desire to avoid 4 things, to avoid shame, to avoid failure, to avoid loss, and to avoid the sense of loss of status. And from what I can tell, happiness has a lot to do in relationship with your relationship to desire. When desire is unchecked, it is terrifying. I've read and reread the book Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. And there's this incredible depiction of how, as our species learned how to work together as effective hunters, we would kill every last animal to extinction. Just pure, unadulterated desire. When you think of Easter Island with these 22-foot high statues weighing 83 tons, when the Europeans landed there in 1722, there was just a small number of inhabitants. They were emaciated. There were no animals, no organization, no boats. And the result of that was deforestation. Because they cut down all the trees, there were no birds, no pollination. Everything was economic ruin. And I wonder, the guy who chopped down that last tree, what was he thinking? And how different is it from where we are right now? When you think of the unchecked greed, the environmental degradation, there are so many signs. So many people who have said we need to stop, but we barrel along. So relationship to desire is huge. It's been said that the absence of desire is enlightenment. And you think just for a moment right now, if you want nothing different than how it is right now, what does that feel like on the inside? How much is your life driven by desire? So, back to this practice, this reality-based practice here. What feels real and what's true? And then we have the two wings of mindfulness to recognize what is true, and then to explore how you can relate to it with an open heart. So we're in this practice then of self-diagnosis. What is happening and how am I relating to it? There was a time, and I've shared about this before, when I've always been interested in diet and consciousness, and I got pulled into the macrobiotic world for quite a few years. The macrobiotics was basically eating everything in season without any chemicals, everything that you could find within a 40-mile radius, basically. It's like eating like your great-great-great-great-grandparents might have. And it tends to get a little bit rigid, and I got super, super rigid, to the point where I was just upset in the ashram where I lived about the quality of the food wasn't meeting the expectations that I had. And I complained bitterly about it. And I remember meeting with one of the head administrators, and I kind of laid out my whole case. And to his credit and to his deep, deep patience, he asked me this question. He said, "What does a happy person eat?" And so I remember a long, long pause. And then I said, "I get it. Okay, I don't need to talk about it anymore." And he went on to kind of talk about how, like, his diet. And he said, pretty much I eat stuff until I'm sick of it. And I just trust my body is gonna rebalance itself. And I was very, very struck by that. Could I really trust that my body's going to tell me what I need? And of course, there is this incredible feedback loop in the universe that tells you when you're out of balance. It's called pain and suffering. But finding balance is so, so key. So key. And when you think of meditation, the practice of meditation, the practice of coming into here and now, when we think of meditation, we tend to think, here's a place of exquisite balance. And you might just close your eyes just for a moment. This will be a very, very short little reflection. When you close your eyes right now, just notice if you're if there's a sense of inner balance. Are you relaxed and alert, or are you relaxed with sleepiness? Or are you alert with some agitation? If you imagine this kind of center line, and on one side of the line is a sense of sleepiness or heaviness or dullness. The other side of the line is kind of hypervigilance and agitation and kind of flightiness. Can you sense that balance, that place in between? If you like, you can gently open your eyes. You can remain with them closed too. So, finding balance, exploring your relationship with desire, understanding you're going to die, understanding you're not dead yet. How do you want to live? So I go through this process, my own process of self-diagnosis, where I do my annual review. It's sort of my attempt to get a little more truthful about what's going on in my life and to kind of find the balance and to recenter. And so I thought I would just share a little bit about my annual review and then offer a little bit of time for you to maybe do a little bit of reflection. So I always ask 3 questions. First, what worked? When I look back over this last 12 months, what worked? And then what didn't work? And then what am I working toward, or what calls me? So what I found is when I look back over this last year, what worked was I'm pretty happy. COVID, of course, was a major disruption in my life, but it also brought out a little bit more of my natural introverted nature. And because I wasn't traveling, and because I was home-based, I actually found that really worked for me. Kind of having time in nature, having more time for myself, and it also having more time with Tara in our home and in our relationship. We found ourselves like more in sync. I had more time to really kind of savor where I live. So that was actually pretty cool. A general sense of happiness. Also, what worked this last year is I had made an intention the year before to tweak my health, like to really look under the hood. So I signed up for this program called Wild Health, where they do a deep genetic dive and deep dive into blood work. And I elected to was working with Tara, with one of the founders who's plant-based, because there can be kind of challenges kind of dialing in a long-term plant-based diet. So I wanted to make sure it was good. And so I found all kinds of stuff, all kinds of really interesting genetic markers, and I could do a whole talk just on that. But kind of dialing in things I was doing that were not so good, things I could change in a little bit, tweaking in my diet and so forth. My migraines this last year dramatically diminished. My sleep has improved. The plant-based diet really works for me. I've kind of got my exercise figured out. So I'm feeling really, really good. And I feel really good about taking that time to kind of look under the hood. I had some anxiety because there are some issues in my lineage around heart and around dementia and Alzheimer's. Another thing that worked for me this last year was moving online with my teaching meant that I could teach from anywhere, and that I could teach when I was more in alignment with my energy. So part of this meant that I could take 6 weeks in New England this summer and not interrupt what I was doing. I also brought a few more offerings. I work a fair bit with CEOs, and I really enjoy that population. I moved to live streaming this class, and I really do miss the live gatherings. I really miss the live laughter at my horrible jokes. I miss the sense of community coming together, but on the other hand, there's been a much greater reach for what I offer. It's more global. In terms of other online events, it's kind of easier to connect. There's much more access for people with disabilities and people who can't travel. My offerings have been much more global in reach, which has been really kind of cool. It's been a creative year with my photography. I shot over 6,500 images. I did a photo book and I want to do more. I've added a 360-degree camera to my arsenal. It keeps my brain sharp, learning editing in both photo and video. I started doing a cartoon a day, finishing up my 3rd year, so I have over 1,000 that I've done. No claim they're any good. And kind of looking over my offerings, the numbers kind of keep going up, and mostly it's just been great. I feel very, very blessed. I've been streamlining. I figured out my will. I'm really kind of enjoying things. So a lot of things have worked really, really well for me. So a question for you, and you might like to close your eyes. When you think back over this last year, what worked? If you could come up with 3 things right now, what are 3 things that really worked for you? If you like, you can open your eyes. And you might want to take some time to flesh this out. It's a really helpful exercise. Just to really flesh it out and kind of capture what worked for you. Now, again, part of the self-assessment is looking at what didn't work. And there was a fair bit this last year that actually, it didn't work in a way that I wanted it to. And just a quick review of these. First was a realization that much of what I do best was completely taken off the table. If I have any skill set, I think it has to do around creating a safe space for people to do inner work, but also to do interrelational work. And a lot of what I do is through somatic inquiry. It's about really moving into kind of move from your issues into your tissues and to articulate that and to really discover how you can move the line between what you're aware of and what you're not aware of through the sense of somatic inquiry. And that really requires a very protected space in order to do that and to be able to share kind of what's just coming into awareness with others in a way that feels safe. That's what I do. That's what I love. And I've come to realize the limits of online. Because we're under so much stress, because we're so easily triggered, it's very, very challenging to kind of create that sort of one-on-one space online. So in the year of living mindfully, which I've offered for the last 9 years, I realized I can't offer it to the depth that I would like to offer it. I was going to be developing, with the practice of RAIN, R-A-I-N, I was actively developing a RAIN level 2, which is going much more into the art of somatic inquiry. And again, I can't do it. It just doesn't, I can't guarantee that safe space that's so important to me. So boom, it's gone. I also ended a lot of programs that I offered. A very, very intensive program called the Energy Intensive. We kind of pulled the plug on that for a number of reasons. A retreat I do on meditation and intuition at Kripalu, that's off the table due to COVID. And Tara and I made the decision to step back from leading long residential retreats. So for myself, for the last 35 years, a lot of what I have done is offering these very intimate, in-person experiences that are not available. So that's a little bit of that's at first a big shock to my sense of my story and my egoic structure. And since then, I've sort of embraced, okay, let's just erase the blackboard. Let's just take it all away and see what's there. I also noticed this year that normally when I would travel and teach, that offering this weekly, the weekly meditation and talk, I would have breaks from time to time. And this last year, I didn't. I didn't have anyone substituting. And that started to drain me a little bit. There's a certain amount of pressure. Like, do I have anything to say? Every talk I offer, I have an inner commitment to never hold my best stuff back. And I really have come to really appreciate and sort of trust that that creates a vacuum. But sometimes it's a lot. So that's a little bit of a little bit of a wake-up call for me. Also, what didn't work is this whole book idea I've been yakking about is dead. But the headline of this is "The book is dead, long live the book." It was a realization that writing a book takes about 3 years. People don't read anymore or as much. And so what I'm putting together might not even get to that many people. So that was a big thing for me to digest this year. I think I have a solution. Also, what didn't work is I always ask myself, should I be promoting my stuff more? That's always a question. And I recognize that I've really embraced creativity, but I haven't really moved from content creation to producing anything. I've created over like 1,000 cartoons in the last 3 years, but I haven't even looked back. I haven't indexed them or anything. I have 500 talks and lots of meditations, but I haven't done an index. So if someone is interested in wanting to find a talk, I haven't cataloged them. I have over 165,000 images and videos, and I've done very little in terms of what am I going to do with these things. Also, I've really come to realize another kind of thing that didn't work is I'm really missing connecting live with people. And this year, because so much of my paid upfront gigs kind of went away, this is a bit of a financial hit this year. So much of what I do is, and I love the practice of teaching through freely offering, through this principle of dana. But as I say, it's a neurotic way to make a living. It's not, there's nothing steady about this. And at the same time, then there are this incredible generosity that propels things forward. So I'm exploring that. So here's a question for you. And again, you might want to close your eyes. When you look back over this last year, and I'll give you about 30 seconds just to let things pop up here. Over this last year, what didn't work? What did you think you were going to do? And it didn't happen. And it might be helpful to just think of 3 as a way to kind of prime the pump. And again, you might want to flesh this out later. This reality-based practice we're in is about embracing challenges. And I learned a lot this last year. I learned that online can work, but it has serious limitations. I learned that I really don't like traveling. I learned that prioritizing my health and my sleep really, really makes a difference. I learned that I value FaceTime with people. I learned how much more I thrive in a lifestyle that's more inner. I learned how much I love the creative process. And I love how much I've gotten a little more accustomed to not being busy all the time. And this is huge. My entire life has been chronically overreaching, trying to prove my worth and my value to the world. It's really been this question of, when is it okay to slow down? So I'm aware that time is flying here. And I want to talk about this third category a little bit because I think it's in many ways It's very, very compelling. The question becomes, as we're in this practice of self-assessment, like, what's the long game here? Back to the vase or the vase. It's already broken. This life is coming to a close, and we don't know when. So the question is, what would you do if someone said to you, I've got some news for you, and you should brace yourself. I don't know when, but your life, everything about this life, your body, your mind, it's going away. And everyone else you know is going to do the same thing, but we can't predict when. So it'd be a good idea to put your things in order now, just in case. It'd be a really good idea to assess what's most important to you, because we can't tell you when you're going to disappear. It might not be for a long time, but it could happen today. Remembering that becomes such a powerful kind of propelling into possibility. When some people get a terminal illness diagnosis, you'd think they would quit their jobs and spend their last money on a Carnival cruise, but that's not true. Some do. Many go on with their lives, but making adjustments that cultivate greater joy and more savoring in their life. Anytime you bring your attention to the fact that all this is falling away, it can bring a sense of what most enlivens you. When you reflect on your great-great-grandparents, I don't know anything about my great-great-grandparents. Imagine 3 generations from now. You are going to fade from memory. Life is going to march on. And so in my annual review, I've asked myself, given the fact that I'm not dead yet, how do I want to live? The regrets of the dying, I wasn't true to myself. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I'd stayed in touch with friends. So here's a little bit of what calls me. I want to be more generous this year. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a well-wisher of all. And it's a very powerful question. What do I love? I love the Dharma. I love these teachings, and I love sharing them. The Monday night webcast, I love doing that. I'm not sure we'll go live again. The book that I've been playing with, I'm going to be putting it into a series of talks and maybe converting that into an online program. I'd like to offer some online trainings, some like short form trainings to go deeper. I love being in nature. I want to savor more being outdoors, take more time on the river, which I love. I love the creative process, so I want to do more photography. And now that I understand the software around creating a book, I'm starting that. I'm going to keep going with the cartooning and working with editing and that sort of stuff, just because it's just fun. I like the illusion of serving, of offering these talks freely, having a sliding scale for when I have time to work with people one-on-one. And because I'm aware that time is passing, and part of this put your affairs in order, I want to take a little bit of time to kind of index my talks and index my cartoons and index my images. I want to finalize my will so things are just cleaner. I want to be more aware of managing my state. More aware of when I'm in the peak, when I'm in the valley, when I'm in recovery, to savor my time, to kind of honor my body as a temple, to listen more to what enlivens me. So I find it interesting to take a little time to reflect on, like, what is it is there a word or a phrase that comes to mind? And part of it for me, because I've let go of so much this year, so much of my online teaching and so much of my income that comes from it. The phrase or the word for me is trust. Can I trust life to kind of flow through me? I always love that quote from E.B. White, which has informed my life, where he said, "Each morning I wake up torn between the desire to save the world and to savor it. This makes it difficult to plan the day." And I love that balance between savoring life and serving. So an inquiry for you, just in these remaining minutes that we have. If you like, you can close your eyes. And you might slow down your breath just a little bit. And again, just reflecting on, as you look back, what worked. All the ways that you were surprised by life. The intimations of what was calling you forward. And reflecting as well on what didn't work, kind of that delta between what you were hoping would happen and what didn't happen. And taking some time now to reflect on what calls you. Knowing that this life at any moment might just disappear. What do you love? And if you can think of 3 things that you would most want to nurture in this year ahead, what might they be? Is there a word or a phrase that might be kind of an operating phrase for you, or a bumper sticker that would help you to remember what's most important? What might that be? You might gently, when you're ready, let your body move a little bit from side to side. If you like, you can let your eyes open. When we embrace practice as a reality-based inquiry, taking the time to reflect on what worked, what didn't work, can be so helpful, because here the course correction can be genuine and can be authentic. And by recognizing what worked and what didn't work, you automatically begin to articulate and hone in on what it is that calls you, what you're working toward. I hope you found this helpful. I certainly do for myself. There's a certain humiliation practice I go through when I do this, because I always see just how ambitious my mind is and how it's not usually based in reality. I will be putting up my my annual review on my website if you want some humorous reading. I so wish you well in your practice. I so wish you well as we move into this new year. Many, many blessings. Really good to be with you.